What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and I'm here today to review Taylor Swift's Red. So this is the fourth studio album from Taylor Swift. We've done reviews for the past 3 albums, and we're covering all of her albums. We've already done her first album, self-titled Taylor Swift. We've done Fearless, and we've done Speak Now. In this video, I'm going to talk about all of the positives, all of the negatives, the kind of storylines, what we're hearing from Red. I'm going to go through and analyze and review that. Next week, we're going to be reviewing 1989, her final album before Reputation comes out. And then we're going to do some fun stuff the next 2 weeks after that, both ranking her albums and her songs. So if you guys have any lists of any of those things you want to comment below, definitely do that. So Red was released on October 22nd, 2012. So we're actually coming up on the 5-year birthday very, very soon. We're about a week ahead of schedule here, just how it happened to turn out. And this album was a lot about love. You hear Taylor Swift talking about that a lot, that in Red, this is an album that, it really is her relationships, everything she's been through leading up the last 2 years before Red, and you hear that for sure. It's not an album so much about going after people. It's not an album singling out somebody like the past albums have had that. This is an album strictly about love, relationship, feelings that Taylor Swift has had over the last 2 years back in that time, and how it just ended up being Red. I think she said, there was nothing like beige about it. It was just Red. So there are some, tough times that she went through during this time, and she reflects on it a lot in this album. Now, the album's sound. This album is extremely interesting, extremely fascinating, because I personally like it. I like this album a lot. It's very, very good. It's very different than the last 3. And, I talked about how I believe that Speak Now was really this pop album. It has a very, Speak Now had a very half pace, where they had some very, very slow songs, but also had some very high-tempo songs. And Fearless, I think that one is probably her fastest album. That one is just, go, 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 go. Very fast, very high energy, high-tempo songs. In Red, it just completely flips the script of what we've seen in the past 3 albums, where this album is just very different. Her voice has matured again, as it has. A girl at her age at this point, now she was 22 years old when she recorded this, and this came out about 2 months before her birthday, her 23rd birthday. So her voice has gotten more and more mature, and you hear that. I do believe in this album, her voice has reached kind of the level of where we've seen it. I think she sings really well in Red all throughout it. I think really, really well. 1989, same thing, and Reputation, from what we heard, same thing as well. But this is when you really start to hear it. There's some really good songs that emphasize her voice, and we'll talk about those specific songs. But her voice has definitely reached the moment. And in terms of the actual music, in terms of the background sounds, the guitar, the still country-ish music that she has going on, it's back more than it was in Speak Now. I feel like, Fearless was this jump to let's experiment with pop. Speak Now was like, all right, let's almost completely dump this country aspect. Let's dump the instruments, let's dump the voice. In this album, it is another infusion, much like I think Fearless and Speak Now had, but different. It lets the country kind of just flow as it is. And I think that actually works really well for some of these songs. I honestly don't have a problem with it. What I feel like is the biggest thing that stands out in this album is, while I really like it, before I did listen to it, before I listened to it for this video, I listened to it 4 times in the week. That's what I do for all of them, is I listen to them a bunch of times. I really try and, collect my thoughts. I had never listened to this album start to finish. And there are songs in this album I never had heard before. So it was cool to be able to listen to all of these again. Some of the songs I've already heard. And it was cool to be able to listen to new Taylor Swift music in my mind, because I've never heard of them before. And here's what I got from the album. It is a step back. There's just no other way of saying it. It is a step back from Speak Now. Speak Now, I believe, by a mile, is her best album. I think Fearless is a really good album too. Red just doesn't stand up to Speak Now. Now, is Red a bad album? No. In fact, I really like Red. The more I listen to it, the more I like it more. I was telling a friend of mine, the first time I listened to it, I'm like, it's just there. But honestly, after listening to it 3 more times, it has a lot of good songs. There's some hidden gems in this album, no doubt. There's less of them than there are in Speak Now. In Red, this is the big hits, right? Every album has those big hits, the singles. And, I think she's had a weird way of going about the singles in the album. For example, in Fearless and Speak Now, the singles definitely hold up. I think the singles in Fearless aren't even that great. They're not even the best songs. In Speak Now, they definitely hold up. But what I like so much about Taylor Swift and her talent level is, the songs that are the singles are good. But I like the albums for the songs that aren't the singles. I like the songs that are kind of mixed in, song number 7 or song number 9. Songs that are just in the album, just deep in the album. And again, this is another album almost completely written by Taylor Swift. She had help with some of the songs she co-wrote. I think she co-wrote with like 5 or 6 songs. So the majority, 12, 13 songs, were just her. And again, this is a great album. I would call it great. But there's just not as many hidden gems as there should be. And while the big songs deliver, and again, we're about to go through every song, as the big songs, the singles, they definitely deliver. But when I look at the rest of the album, how it's structured, how it's put together, there's just not as much there as there is in Speak Now. Like, there's no Enchanted, there's no Haunted, there's no Hey Stephen, there's no Long Live or Change. Those aren't there. There are some really good songs in here, and my favorite in this album may surprise you, but there's just not the same level of quality. I definitely think she took a step back. While her voice is definitely way better, and I think it's about as good as it gets, and while I think she really has mastered some of the ways of using music and the instruments behind her in select songs, this album just has a problem where some of the songs are just there. There's not much to them. They don't do anything for me. All 3 of the deluxe edition songs do absolutely nothing. And we'll talk about those in a second. One of them is better than the other 2, but they really don't bring anything new to the table. So let's go through the songs. Overall, again, if you're just here for this overall part, overall, great album. Really like it. I want to listen to it more. I want to see if maybe some of the songs I like more and more as I listen to it, but just not as good at all compared to Speak Now. And that's not a bad thing. You can't keep up literal. I think Speak Now is a perfect album by her. I don't think you can keep that up forever, and in my opinion, she didn't. So the first song on this album is definitely in my top 3, and at the very end we'll talk about I'll list a couple of my absolute favorites. But this song is absolutely one of the best songs in the album by far, State of Grace. I really like how it starts, and this starts the whole album. And even State of Grace sounds very different. It's a very different kind of song. You maybe wouldn't even think of it to be a Taylor Swift song if you didn't know that it was her. It starts with the drums. It starts with the guitars in the back. It's the first time you hear her voice, obviously, in the album. And you can tell it's mature. Like, she just sounds more of an adult in this song. And I like it. It's a longer song. It's almost one of her longest songs. But I really, really like the song overall. It's probably my favorite, if you have to say, my favorite opening song on any of her albums so far. I do like Welcome to New York. Then after we get Red. And now this was a song, the first time I heard it, didn't really do much to me. Now I like it. It's catchy. It has some energy to it. I like her use of when she says red, red. Like when she says it in the background, they kind of, distort her voice and make it sound a little different. I like that. I didn't like it the first time I heard it. It's a good second song. I don't think it's like outrageously amazing. It is a single. It's obviously the name of the album. And, these all have, again, the stories of her love and her relationships with people. And I think State of Grace definitely does it better than Red. Red's an okay follow-up, but I just don't think it holds up. And this is kind of the start of the problem that we'll see throughout the album. Treacherous is next. And now I like this song. The first time I heard it, and this was before this past week. First time I heard it, I don't think I ever liked it. But I like her voice in this. It's another lower, kind of higher pitched voice that she's had before. She's done that in a couple of the songs over the past several albums, like Speak Now, in the album Speak Now. And so I like it. I like the way her voice sounds. I think her voice definitely propels a lot of the songs in this album. Like State of Grace is a good overall song, but I really like her voice. Red, I guess you can say, is maybe saved by her voice. There's really nothing else there. And in Treacherous, her voice definitely as well carries it. So you're starting to see a little bit of a change from her past albums in terms of how I like it, where her voice is really saving the day in a lot of these songs. But Treacherous is a very good song. I absolutely do like it now. It definitely stands out amongst the opening of this album. I Knew You Were Trouble. Now this is obviously one of the singles of the song, maybe a song that you've definitely heard of if you heard of Taylor Swift. I like this song. This is a big name song, and it definitely holds up to what it should be. And that's kind of what I said in the beginning, right? The big names hold up, I think. Absolutely, they hold up. It's just the other songs. But, you know, I like the guitar. I like the fast-paced kind of tempo they're using. I like Taylor Swift's voice. I like the story she's kind of telling. Everything in this song, it's very catchy, obviously very catchy. I like the change up in how the song is arranged. Everything about the song is very, very good. I think it's a good timing, too, to have it as the fourth song in the album, because you feel a different kind of energy from this song, even from the other three. I definitely really like this song. All Too Well is a slower and a better song, I think, than most of the songs on this album. I really like it. I like Taylor Swift's voice. I like the slowdown of pace. I tend to like that in a lot of albums. She does that a lot, obviously, in Speak Now. In this album, I think it just kind of goes all over the place, but All Too Well definitely slows the pace down. I like the instruments. I like her voice. This is a very, very good fifth song in this album. 22 is next up. Again, big name. I adore this song. This song is great. This is basically the 22-year-old's national anthem. Now, I'm 21, so on my 22nd birthday, I'm sure I'll be, listening to this. I can play this on the guitar. I really love this song. There's not a lot to say about it. I mean, it's a song about being 22, what that means. I like everything about the song. I like its catchiness. I like the guitar chords. I like her voice in it. This song is great. It's a big single. It's something that people definitely know her for. I always said that it's going to be weird when she's singing this when she's in her 40s or whatever, but it definitely is a great song that holds up no matter when you listen to it. I Almost Do. Now this is another song that I like her voice. It definitely, I think, saves the song. There's nothing outrageously different about this song that stands out to me. This is an example, not the best example, but this is an example of a song that's kind of just there, that is kind of a placeholder. It's in between two pretty huge songs, and I think it could have been better placed, maybe along with All Too Well, but I mean, overall, it just doesn't stand out. And that is the case with a couple of the songs on this album, is it just doesn't do anything for me. We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together is next up. Again, I mean, this song could be her biggest song. I'm not sure. I think a lot of people know what this song is. The story of how this occurred with her being on the phone and her the co-writers hearing it, and then she came back into the room and they said, we have the idea, and going along with it. I mean, this song is good. It's, again, very, very catchy. It's got a lot of the same chord structures as 22. And you're starting to hear a lot of, repeat stuff. In this album, you hear, again, a lot of the quick stoppages that she started all the way back to 15. You hear it a lot in Speak Now, and you hear it here. So, a lot of the things do sound the same in terms of, especially the guitar chords. But, We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, obviously a huge song by her, very, very catchy. It's definitely good. I love the song. I don't think it's the best song on the album. Again, I think these songs are great. I think all of her big songs are normally really, really well, but it's the other songs. How well can she do the other songs? And this is not my favorite song of the album, but we're getting there. Stay, Stay, Stay is next. This is a very country-driven song, and I have nothing wrong with that. It sounds very catchy. It sounds very, in a way, lighthearted. This is the one where I think she laughs at the end. This is a song driven by country, where you can tell that it's still there. And you can tell it's still there through a lot of these songs. Like I said, she's found a better way, I think, of mixing them in. They don't make it like this masterpiece song that I think Love Story is, when you put them all together in such this beautiful way. She's never quite done that since Love Story. But what I think she's gotten just better at overall is introducing country elements to a song and not having it be overwhelmed by country. Even though this song is pretty country sounding. but it never feels overwhelmed like it does in a lot of her early stuff back in the Taylor Swift, her first album. I think this is a good example of a song that works very well for what it is. The Last Time. Now this song is probably my least favorite on her album. It's co-sang by her and Gary Lightbody of Snow Patrol. The first time I heard this, I just sat there and I just listened to it. And I went in and I went out and I was like, okay, there's nothing there. There's literally nothing there. I've listened to it a couple more times. I think it's gone to the acceptable category in my head. I'll listen to it, but honestly, both their voices are good. His voice is pretty solid. Her voice, I like how she uses her voice in this song, but I mean, there's just nothing there. It's driven by a structure of just something that just doesn't do it for me at all. It really is just a song in the middle of an album, and there's really nothing to it other than two people singing that doesn't really make an impact at all. It's a little disappointing because you feel something from all of these songs, all of the songs in Speak Now, all of these songs, but you just don't hear it. Personally, I do not hear it in the song at all. And things start to, I think, take a turn for the better. I think the first half of this album is basically filled with really big named hits, a surprise hit in State of Grace, and then just songs that kind of occupy space. I think that's a good way of describing the first half. Once you get past The Last Time, you start to reach a different kind of sound, I think. I feel like this album kind of has two different chapters to it, and this is the second chapter. Holy Ground is next up, and Holy Ground is very fast. It's very upbeat. I think even if its message maybe isn't, it's very fun to listen to, the drums, the guitar, just the pacing of it is way faster. And if there's anything on this album that works in terms of its structure, I think putting this after The Last Time definitely makes it stand out, because it is a faster paced song that maybe wouldn't be all that much special on an album like Fearless. It kind of sounds like a song that could be on Fearless, but by putting it where it is next to The Last Time, I think it stands up because it's just so much faster and so much faster paced. My favorite song on the album is the next song up, is Sad, Beautiful, Tragic. Now, you may be, if you've watched these videos by me, you may be confused, because Sad, Beautiful, Tragic is definitely, it has a, not so much country, but it is dominated by not normal sounds, not normal instruments. I really like this song. It is slow in a way. It's slow. I love her voice in it. I don't think we've ever heard a song with her voice sounding exactly like this. It does sound a little bit like if you put a little bit more depression, if you want to call that an expression of it, into her voice from the song Speak Now. It is a higher-ish pitched song, but it's written and it kind of sounds more country. I think her voice definitely sounds more country in this, but I like the message. I like the tone. The tone of the song, I think, is different than any of the tones on any of the other songs. It's actually kind of depressing when you hear it, because it's just so different and so kind of soft, but has this under layer where it's just really powerful. This is a very powerful song. And the instruments used in this song are by far my favorite. It's weird how she used these instruments. I think it's the ukulele that's playing the more the guitar kind of structured parts. I really like the tone. I really like the song. I love her voice in this. This is my favorite song. This is that diamond in the rough, this hidden gem that I was looking for as I was about to go in this album. I was like, all right, what's this album's Enchanted? What's this album's Haunted? Which one is it? And it's this. Sad, Beautiful, Tragic is my favorite song on this album, and one of my favorite songs that she's ever written. Then it kind of bounces back with another song that is just okay, The Lucky One. This one definitely sounds very different. It's this kind of pop, kind of electric sounding. It's very different. It reminds me more of a song that you would imagine to be on 1989. I think this is where she gets more into that kind of musical structure of how it sounds, adding these different effects, adding this different kind of structure in her song of how everything's broken up, the pauses in her voice. This song is a song I think you would expect to see on 1989. I don't think it fits. And coming right after Sad, Beautiful, Tragic, I don't think it works at all. And this is a song that just, again, goes in, goes right out. It's there. It's not as bad, I think, as the last time, and not that the last time is a bad song. I don't think any song on this album is bad. There's a very few Taylor Swift songs I think are bad just in general. Tim McGraw is definitely one of them. But this song isn't bad. It's just occupying room, and in a way, in the way of a better song right after it. And we end this album very, very strong with the last three. Everything has changed. The song sung with Ed Sheeran. He has a great voice. I've always thought he has a good voice. I don't follow him. I don't listen to his music. I don't really care for his music. But he's definitely someone that worked. Like, him and Taylor Swift have a good chemistry. They both have very good voices on this. I like their how it's dueled. It's better, I think, placement of their voices singing right after each other than the last time, which has them kind of singing one after the other and then has them mixing, whereas Everything Has Changed does it a little bit, but doesn't have them singing over each other as much as you may think. It is more dominated by Taylor Swift than Ed Sheeran, but when Ed Sheeran sings and then Taylor Swift sings right after, I think it just works. Their voices work really, really well coming right back from each other. My second favorite song on this album, and the song that I thought was going to be my favorite, because I didn't think it was actually on this album. When I had listened to Starlight, which is what the song is, I had listened to Starlight before, and I thought it was just an extra song. But turns out it's on this album. I honestly did not know that. This song is great. I love the guitar work. I love the background noises. Like literally whatever noises they're using in the background when she's going into the chorus, I really, really like. I love her voice in this. I think her voice in Starlight is probably the best voice on this entire album, in my personal opinion. I think it's one of the best put together songs where, again, how I talked about country and pop, and when you mix them together, you kind of get Love Story, this grandiose kind of a huge song that really, really works. In Starlight, it's more of an electronic and pop. I think those are the two elements you get with this. And when you mix those two together and it works really well, you get Starlight. So I'm very, very happy about that. And then the final song on the album is Begin Again, which has a lot of soundings like 15, has a lot of soundings of her past work, but she does just something different with her voice, where it sounds a little bit like Mine, sounds a little bit like 15, sounds a little bit like the songs on this album. I really, really like it. I like the message it's talking about, literally beginning again, like with somebody else, and how he's doing something for her that just other people, or he's noticing things about her that just nobody else did. I really like that, but I like how she uses her voice. It's kind of the same voice that we've heard a lot of, but just in the way, there's just something about it that's just a little bit different, and it definitely stands out amongst this album. And like I said, I'm not going to talk too much about the deluxe edition songs. The moment I knew Come Back, Be Here, and Girl at Home, they just don't do it. Come Back, Be Here, that song is okay. I like that song a little bit. At least it has something to it. These are all very country mixed with pop, just not done that great. They definitely don't have a place in this album. They definitely would not have a place in Speak Now, and they definitely wouldn't have a place in 1989. I feel like they're just songs she thought of and created, and it's like, alright, they're not good enough for this album, and they don't really fit with anything, but let's just put them in. And that's honestly what I get from it. It just doesn't do anything for me. None of these songs. Whereas in Speak Now, Ours, If This Was a Movie, and Superman, those are some of the best songs she's ever made. If This Was a Movie is one of my personal favorites by her, and that's a bonus song. These songs do absolutely nothing for me. They're just kind of there. So, in all, I really, really like Sad, Beautiful, Tragic. That's my first song. That's my favorite song on this album. Starlight would probably be number 2, and State of Grace would be number 3. I really also like, I Knew You Were Trouble. I like a couple more songs in this album. Begin Again would probably be 4 or 5 in this, so that would probably be my 5. I really like some of the songs of this album, and I definitely think some of these songs on this album are really good, and some of her best songs she's ever made. They're very different. Sad, Beautiful, Tragic, you're never going to hear her sing a song like that ever. Ever. That's the only song of the 170 plus songs she has. It's the only time you ever have heard that. And I like that. It just doesn't have enough experimentation. I don't think she did as many different thoughts that maybe she had as she did in the past. that's not playing it safe. That's just maybe the feeling that she had. And we know from 1989 that she definitely changes things up and kind of just drops this country feel altogether. So again, next week I'll be reviewing 1989. Very, very excited about it. It's also the first time that I've listened to that full album, start to finish. I never have done that. So that'll be fun. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to rank the albums. And then in 3 weeks, we're going to rank the songs. And then that brings us up to Reputation. And I have a couple fun things planned for that as well. So let me know what you guys think about all of this stuff in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now, for more Taylor Swift videos, because that's what we do here. Like and share the video, and I will see you guys for next week's 1989 review.